Ahoy! So this video is going to be a little bit different. As you can see, I am wearing a pirate hat and I am in a different area because I moved. None of that matters because right now I want to talk to you about what I think is probably the most important thing in the world, and that is figuring out the perfect pirate video game. Not the most important thing to talk about, but I digress. I wanted to make a video. I had been talking to a few different people the last few days about kind of my disappointments in the various pirate video games that are out there. And in my opinion, I think I came up with some pretty good ideas. And so I wanted to kind of have this in a video, discuss them, see if any of you have any other ideas or any better ideas. But let's get into it. This is going to be fun. This is going to be relaxing. This is going to be casual. I barely am going to edit this thing because I'm just having fun. Anyway, first up, I do think the most important thing for any pirate game is the pirate ship. That makes sense. I think if you're going to get rid of anything else, you would keep the pirate ship. Without a pirate ship, you're not really a pirate. You're just kind of like, I don't know, a drunk person stealing money. So a pirate ship is a very important part of this. So one thing, the last two most recent video games that have pirate ships are Skull and Bones and Sea of Thieves, and they both do them very differently. So to start off with, the first one is the most recent one, which is Skull and Bones. That one, you basically only spend time in a pirate ship, and I'll be honest, like I said, the pirate ship is the most important part, but I do not believe that you can have a pirate ship with, or a pirate video game without anything else other than a pirate ship. The other most important thing in my mind is you have to feel like it's your house, you know? You have to feel like it's something that you grow with. Of course, there's character customization, but you also need pirate ship customization. Now, both of these games do offer a little bit in customizing, from the weapons to some trinkets to accessories and things like that. But Skull and Bones in particular, you don't really get to walk around the pirate ship. The things that you get to actually see are a very zoomed out aspect of the pirate ship, and then you go into kind of first person view when you're shooting your cannons. Other than that, there's not really much in exploration. You don't get to go down to the captain's quarters, outside of like some cutscenes. You don't get to explore the ship too much. One thing that Sea of Thieves does really well is you do get to explore the pirate ship, and you get to customize it, and you get to go down to the captain's quarters, and you get to go down to, where there's water in the bottom, and you can scoop it out with a bucket, and you can even sleep in there and walk around. So there's a little bit more customization there and personalization there. But the problem is, Skull and Bones doesn't offer nearly as much customization or personalization to the ship, and Sea of Thieves offers quite a bit. The problem is every time you start the game over or turn the game off, it basically starts over. You can keep some of the accessories and you can keep the customization on your character, but the ship itself is just a new ship every single time. It's not a ship that you built up from scratch. So here's what I'm proposing. It goes beyond just accessories, and it goes beyond just a little bit of customization. I want this to feel like your pirate ship. So I'm thinking something like The Sims, where you can custom build your pirate ship. Of course, you would have templates. The game would offer you templates. There'd be different classes of ships, just as both of these games offer, but you can build it from the ground up. Another game that I think does really well to make it feel like you customize the ship to be exactly what you wanted is something like, I'm even thinking something like you could do the Gummy Ship from Kingdom Hearts, where you just truly can build jank ships. And I'm not just thinking like you can build different classes of ships, but like you can truly change it to where, I don't know, the captain's quarter is on the bow of the ship. A place where you really wouldn't want it to be, and you can put the all of the sailors with the oars up at the top for some reason, and you could build the sails backwards. Like, I really want this to feel like you could build a truly jank ship. It's not just a ship that is perfect for this, for rum running or for combat, but also ones that you can just be like, this looks dumb, or this looks really cool. It doesn't really work, but it's my ship. So that's what I'm looking for, is like true customization of what your ship is. And of course, the game loop throughout the game is that you get to go and you get to go buy different things. You get to customize your ship. Some of the treasures can be some of the accessories that you add into your ship. So you can have different couches and you can have different tables and, all of these different things, so that when you walk around in your ship, just as you do in Sea of Thieves, it truly feels like your ship. You know where you got those trinkets from. You know why you put this here. You know why your bathroom is, super far away from your captain's quarters. All of this stuff. I think that would truly be a lot of fun and really add to that point of that personalization. Like this is my home, not just something to shoot other pirates and other vessels with. So that I believe is kind of the first and main thing that I don't think any pirate game has really nailed. There are other games that I think do various aspects of this. Even things like No Man's Sky and stuff. Like there are games that have really great shipbuilding that allow for that customization. I want to have that in a pirate game. All right, so next up, this one's pretty simple, and pretty much every RPG game has this, and that's character customization. I'm not saying that Skull and Bones and Sea of Thieves don't have this, but I do think that a perfect pirate game also has this, because not just a pirate ship is who you are. I think that's one thing that Skull and Bones gets wrong is 90% of the game is in the pirate ship. You also want to explore your own character and, have an RPG session with your own character. So both of those I think are equally as important, where you can have different hats and you can have different looks and you can have different beards and you can have different voices and you can customize your weapons and all of that stuff. I think that's also very important because part of the fun part of being a pirate is going and like swashbuckling. So getting all of that drip, getting all of those necklaces that could, give your character buffs or debuffs and all of that stuff. I think that would be really important too, to truly feel like you're building up your character. Let's be honest, almost every RPG has this, from Baldur's Gate to Skyrim to all of these things. They do them somewhat differently, but I don't think we're asking for much when you're just asking for a character creator that also allows you to augment what your character looks like and different buffs and all of that stuff. So this one's pretty simple, but I also think is just equally as important as the pirate ship. All right, number three, I think is one that pretty much every pirate game has gotten wrong. And funny enough, Assassin's Creed 4 from over a decade ago nailed is that exploration aspect of being a pirate outside of your pirate ship. You should be able to walk around outside of your pirate ship. As I said earlier, swashbuckling is a really, really important part of being a pirate. So you should be able to get off your ship and you should be able to explore and you should be able to go and stab people and all of that stuff. So Skull and Bones doesn't offer that at all outside of walking around from a few select ports. Sea of Thieves does offer it, and it's, what it is really cool, but I will say that the combat, at least for me, is quite lacking. It's just, certain different types of swipes with your sword. You only really have to be able to customize the sword that you have, but you don't have different types of swords that you can have. Same thing with the gun. And so the combat just feels kind of lacking in meh. It's not bad, but it's not exciting. I'm not wanting to get into sword fights in Sea of Thieves. Assassin's Creed Black Flag did this really well because it had the Assassin's Creed combat system in the game itself. Now, I will say I do also find that combat system to be slightly janky, but I'm also talking about a 10-year-old combat system. For me, I think the perfect pirate combat system, based off of all of the combat systems that I've seen, would be something either like a hack and slash, so something like God of War or Nier Automata or something like that, or my personal favorite choice for a good swashbuckling would be the Arkham Asylum games. Also the Spider-Man games, the almost brawl style jumping back and forth to different enemies. Obviously it would look and feel different because you're not a superhero like Spider-Man and you don't have nearly as many gadgets and things as you do as Batman, but I would love to have different types of swords, like even ones that aren't necessarily associated with pirates. So it could be, your classic cutlass, but you could also have a rapier, and you could also have a long sword and a short sword and daggers, and each of these would play slightly differently. You'd have different guns, not just like your pistol, but you could have rifles and all of these different things so that you could really be a different type of fighting style for each of these different combat styles. You could also add in, yeah, I don't know if I'd call them gadgets, but you could add in, little tricks like smoke bombs and caltrops and things like this to add a little bit of depth to that gameplay to make it feel a little bit more like the Arkham games and a little bit more like the Spider-Man games. Obviously, you're not going to be swinging around on webs, but you could add some of that. I'll get into this a little bit later, but you could add some fantastical stuff too. Let's be honest. Being a realistic pirate is boring as hell. Like, I mean, it's not boring, but it's not exactly exciting, you know? But if you are going to make a good pirate game, I'll be honest, mythical stuff also adds into this for me. And like I said, I'll get into that a little bit more, but you could also add in some cool mythical gadgets that give it a little bit more flair. So, there's some magic there or, something to spice up the gameplay. But to me, I think that is a great swashbuckling um, combat system. I'm just imagining like hopping onto the other ship and just bouncing back and forth to each of the different people. It just really feels like you'd be in the midst of some of those coolest, pirate games of just jumping back and forth and dodging and rolling and all of this stuff. I think that'd be so fun. And it needs to feel fluid. I mean, swashbuckling in my mind is a very fluid type of combat and a really frenetic type of combat, not something that's super staccato like something like Sea of Thieves has. Okay, next up, because I've mentioned it, next up for me is adding mythical aspects. Like I said, being a realistic pirate could be fun, but I do feel like just as synonymous with pirates as, treasure and the sea are things like sirens and krakens and Davy Jones' locker and all of these things. And so you could spice up this game to have things like that. Sea of Thieves has this. They have krakens and they have, certain mythical aspects. I think most pirate games would do well to have this. And I think if we're building out this pirate game, we would also have that. You would add in, huge cyclones and krakens and leviathans and sharks and all of these things that are both realistic and mythical to add in not just more things to do, but also just make it a little bit more fun, like being a realistic pirate was just kind of sailing on the seas all the time and getting scurvy. So let's spice it up a little bit and add in more like mythical things. I think that'd be so much fun. Like you could go to the Isle of the Sirens and you could have, a certain event there, or you could have a kraken that's like a mythical creature that you're like trying to hunt down. You could have like Moby Dick style whales that are like huge and, just I think you could have limitless possibilities of certain things in this realm that would allow you to add to the combat, add to the things that you could do to the quests, all of that stuff. So I think that's a really important part. Of course, you could still go the realistic route, but I think in my pirate game that we're building out here together, I would add in mythical aspects. To me, they're almost just as synonymous as the realistic ones. Okay, next up, and this is a big one because it's something I haven't seen in any pirate game. It's also not something that you see in many games in general, but I do truly think is very important for a pirate game, and that's crew management. So, one of the best games that I can think of that has a kind of management system I'm thinking is Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain. So, this one is where you could go and find people as you're out exploring and you can see their stats and you're like, you know what, this guy would be a good chef, or this guy would be a good soldier, or this guy would be a good security guard, this guy would be a good tech guy, whatever. And you can send them to your home base and you can organize them based off of their skills and level them up and have them go run missions for you. So for me, it would go beyond just, you being a captain on a ship and you just have AI people around you, you would actually truly get to know some of these people. You would get to learn their names. You would get to assign them to, like, you're going to be my repairman. You're going to be my quartermaster. You're going to be, this, and this. And you can even assign them to go do things like markets and stuff like that, which I'll get into a little bit later. But you can go assign them to do that. Or, as you grow your crew, obviously you're going to have more people than what your ship can handle. You can start to own an armada and start assigning other captains to other ships and have them go and run certain things for you automatically, and they can bring you, certain daily assets and things like that. That way you're not just constantly going out and getting, dumb things like wood and ore. You can go send them out to go do that, so you can go do the fun stuff like taking on the krakens and things like that. So for me, I think something like what Metal Gear Solid did, where you can recruit people either from other pirate ships or from ports or from all of your quests, you can start recruiting people and you can bring them into your crew and organize them in that way. You can fire them, you can send them to the brig, they can get into fights. I think that would be a really cool management system, and it also breaks up the what could be a monotonous just sailing on the high seas. It could give you something to do while you're sailing there, because if you don't have a waypoint or a fast travel option, you could set your course for, go north. And as your ship is automatically sailing north, you could go in and do the system management so that you're not just staring at the sea, which you could do, but it also gives you something else to do while you're waiting. Okay, next up for me is a market system. So I kind of touched this on a little bit with the crew management, but for me, I think another thing that pirates did really well beyond the just going and killing people and taking on quests and sailing the high seas was they would money launder. They would have a market. Eventually they would grow to have enough money to where they could actually sell goods and they could buy goods and things like that. So for me, I think it'd be a lot of fun to set up, especially once you start getting crew and you started to, have enough money to like buy buildings and stuff. You could set up a market where you could, you have a tavern, or you have a trading post or something like that at different ports, and you can sell things. I don't need it. I'm going to sell it at my store for a marked up cost or something like that. Maybe you could sell it just regularly for a certain cost, or you can put it into your market and add at the risk of it taking a little bit longer to sell, you could get more money as it accrues interest. And if you have crew members that you recruited that have better salesman skills and all of this stuff, you can boost how much money you get as you sell things. So I think that's also a really important part that is often missed with pirates, is that they did things other than just swashbuckling and pirate ships. They also owned businesses to money launder and all of that stuff. Another thing that I think is really important, I've touched on it for pretty much all of these, is being able to explore beyond the swashbuckling and beyond the, you know, doing your ship stuff, is going and finding treasure maps and going and finding X marks the spot. That's another synonymous thing with pirates. Sea of Thieves does this pretty well, where you can go and find different maps and you can go find the treasure. I don't know how much I would change it from that. I think that's one of my favorite parts of Sea of Thieves is finding those maps, finding where they are on the huge world, and then you would go and find those and dig them up and you would get some treasure. I think that's really cool. You can't do that in Skull and Bones, and I think that's a really, really important part, is treasure hunting. It's not just going and killing people on other ships or looting things, but going and actually finding these treasures and exploring. I would love to have a map that is just as in depth as something as like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, or just a dense map where you can go and actually explore and find all of these nooks and crannies where things are hidden. It's not just being dug out, but it's also, in caves that you have to go fight, you know, sirens and orcs or something. I don't know. I'm not sure how much mythical stuff you want in there, but you go and explore, and then you find these treasures. I think that would be so cool. You could stumble upon them too. And that to me is a really, really important aspect of pirates. Another one that I Sea of Thieves has, I can't recall if Skull and Bones does, but is a reputation system. One thing that you want to make sure that you have is, or at least I think is really fun, is there being different affiliations from, the uptight, military people to the trading people to the, maybe there's a mythical, group of affiliation, and you can run different quests for these different people and gain reputation for each of them, and maybe that locks or unlocks certain parts of the map based off of what is what your reputation is. Maybe you can't even go into this port until you have a certain reputation with an affiliate, and maybe selling goods there can increase or decrease your affiliation. So I think that's a really important thing that Sea of Thieves does have, and that's one of the few things that does keep up over time as you log in and log out of Sea of Thieves. That is one of the things that stays saved, is your affiliations. I do also think that that is a primo thing to have. Next up, and I'm surprised I haven't mentioned it yet, is PvP. In my mind, there's so many things here that you could probably just have a really cool PvE pirate game, and I'd still play the crap out of it. But I do think that for some people, especially for pirates, PvP is a also very awesome part of this. Now, I think this is where Sea of Thieves really misses the mark for me. From what I've heard, because I haven't encountered this, but from what I've heard, you can either play PvE, which is mostly how I play, but it's very locked down. You can only do like half of the stuff in the game if you're playing the PvE server. If you're in the PvP server, from what I've heard, is a lot of the times you just get nuked by some random person as you're sailing the high seas, which sure it adds a little bit of risk and reward and stuff like that, but the fact that it can happen anywhere at any time, I think just makes it really lame. I I understand the idea of being a pirate and feeling like you could be killed at any point in time from other characters, but in my opinion, I don't think that that is the most healthy way to foster a community or make people have fun during a PvP server. So I thought of a few different things that you could add in to make this PvP. I'm not sure which one is best, so I'll just list out some of my ideas for this. First up, the first one is there is no PvP. It's just PvE. I think that'd be a fun game, but that's not our point here. So the next one is that you have world events. I'm blanking on what games are really good at this. I want to say Diablo does this, but um, I might be wrong there. It's been a while since I played Diablo, but really these would be world events where it's PvE for the most majority of the game. But you can go to certain world events, like let's say a Kraken appeared or a Leviathan appeared, or there's a Blackbeard appeared, and this person is so hard to beat on your own that you can go into this instance of this world event and you can invite other players, whether they be friends or whether they be strangers, to go and fight this world event together. So it's not necessarily PvP. It's still it's more co-op in that aspect, but you still are playing with people and you can still invite people over and you can share those rewards. So it still feels like this game is existing with other people without you having to worry about being killed all the time. My next idea was perhaps if the map is large enough, which by the way, I do think the map needs to be absolutely huge. You can add in fast travel and stuff like that, but you have to feel like you're actually exploring the seven seas. That you have a very, very limited server. It's not an MMO where you have thousands of people. It's more you have, I don't know, maybe five or six ships that can be on here, each of which can have a few different people in them. And that way your chances of running into somebody are fairly low, but you do still have that risk of getting destroyed by them. I don't personally like that. I think that's pretty close to what Sea of Thieves does, and I just that one doesn't really sit right with me. For me, I think the my favorite option is something akin to kind of what RuneScape did, where you have the wilderness. So you have a PvE area, which is 90% of it, but there is 10% of the game that is the wilderness, which is the PvP area. Once you cross that threshold, you are now able to get killed. The thing is the deeper you go into that threshold, the higher the rewards are. Like, let's say some of those craziest pieces of gear, hats and swords and guns and stuff, to get those, you have to go deep into the PvP wilderness. And that's where people can kill you. Again, I would still limit it down to a small amount of people, but that way it's not just happening immediately. But if you walk in there, you are, allowing the PvP to happen, and you can also prepare for it. You're not just dying randomly as you're on the open seas. You know that when you go in there, you can get killed, so you can kind of prepare and put certain things in the bank and all of that stuff. So that's personally my favorite thing, and you can add in the world event part on top of any of these ideas. So that's probably where I would land, is a PvP area that is also fairly large and very deep, and that's where you can get all of your best gear, but it has a high risk, high reward sort of thing. And then you also have world events that are a little bit more co-op. That way you don't just have people logging on and instantly dying from people who, PK them or anything like that. So I think that's everything. I'm not sure if I missed stuff. But that to me, I think, is an amazing pirate game. It makes you truly feel like a pirate. You get to grow up with your character, you get to grow with your ship, all of those things. Oh, I would add a co-op aspect where you can have somebody play with you. It wouldn't be a PvP thing. Think of it more like kind of what Baldur's Gate did, where you can have somebody play with you with their character, but it's a little bit more like they're a ghost. They're more playing the game with you, so it's still a single player campaign, but they can still help, move the ship and still help you kill um NPCs and stuff like that. But if you are doing quests and stuff, it's more they're furthering your quests and not their own or something like that. I haven't quite thought about the co-op aspect of this, but I think that would be a ton of fun, as well as being able to play with your crewmates and stuff. But anyway, that's the pirate game that I thought of. I'm curious if you have any other ideas. I think I've got them all, but I want to play that game. I want to play that game so much. I would pre-order the game right now, no matter how long it would take, because that's what I want to play. So anyway, let me know if you have any other ideas, if you like any of these, or if you hate any of these. Let me know. Put those in the comments down below. I have no idea if I'll make any other videos like this. This is kind of fun, and I just had time, so why not? But if you do like them, let me know. I might make a little bit more. So anyway, take care, and I will see you later.